What's going on with you? It's your boy Betts, back with another episode of Sports with Betts. I came out of hiding. Last time I was on here sharing my thoughts, it was right before the Nebraska and Iowa game, which I went pretty hard during that. I actually went to that game, and wow, that was crazy. My Huskers piss pants have never been wetter. I was the saddest Husker fan you've ever seen. Sorry to start off the show with such a negative topic, but yeah, I've come out of hiding. I was pretty down and out about football and sports in general after that game. I was, we were tailgating early in the morning. We were, in Memorial Stadium in the freezing cold, hyped up. Memorial Stadium was rocking. It was fun until it wasn't fun. And then, what was a fun first half and a fun morning turned into a really sad and a really quiet car ride home with me firing off a lot of tweets at Iowa Hawkeyes fans and trolling Iowa Hawkeyes fans on the Sports with Bets Twitter. And it wasn't good. I had to delete a lot of tweets. I think I threw out some words and some things that I shouldn't have said, including calling all Iowa Hawkeyes fans inbred, which I know that's not true. I know that there's like a wives' tale out there that all, or the majority of Iowa Hawkeyes fans are inbred. I know that that's not true, so that's why I deleted a lot of those tweets. Anyway, we're going to move on from that. We're going to get more into college football, Husker football, a lot to talk about, a lot to cover here in my absence. But something I want to just shout you guys out real quick is, every year they do the, Spotify Wrapped, where you can see, the top songs, top artists, top podcasts you listen to. Well, for Spotify, for creators, they have Spotify Wrapped as well, and they hit us with some pretty cool stats. So something that was really neat was 2025. We got labeled as an instant hit show, which means that we were more popular than 84% of new shows. We got an award for 2025 talked about show, which means that we received more comments than 98% of other shows, which is pretty dang cool. And then 2025, we were the most shared show, or we were a most shared show, meaning we received more shares than 90% of other shows. And something else that I thought was just kind of cool was this is a top 10 show for 41 people out there, top 5 show for 30 people. I mean, again, those numbers aren't crazy. Those numbers aren't huge, but 41 people out there were a top 10 show for 30 people. And then I think we have like over 15 people. We are the number one show that folks listen to on Spotify. So thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you for sharing the show. It goes a long way. I feel it. And I want to keep growing and keep doing this. This is super fun. The more people we listen to, who are more new people we get to listen to the show, the more excitement it creates. And maybe we can do some things different here. And we're just in the beginning. It's very exciting. So thank you guys for sharing the show. Keep sharing the show if you're getting anything out of this at all. That being said, let's go back to let's pick up where we left off before. So college football. Specifically Nebraska football. We got the word this week that Dylan Raiola, Patrick Mahomes is no longer a Nebraska Cornhusker. Am I surprised? Absolutely not surprised. If you listen to the show, you heard me a couple weeks ago say that Dylan Raiola he really felt like a transfer portal guy. It just seemed like that is what he was going to do. I mean, the dude, I think he transferred to 2 or 3 different high schools. He committed and decommitted from Ohio State and then Georgia. I'm pretty sure were the schools that he's committed and decommitted a lot. And so the combination of him the combination of Nebraska sucking, the combination of Nebraska being just a shitty football team and him breaking his leg because he's got no protection and he gets killed every play. And then his brother decommitted, his uncle got fired. It's like, all right, no shit. Obviously he's on his way out the door, and wishing him nothing but success. Was he the second coming of Christ like everybody in Nebraska promised? No. I mean, he played some good football, and he had me convinced really early on that he was the real deal. So he's going to go somewhere else, and he's going to have success. And I'm excited for him to experience that. I've seen a lot of people throw out Oregon, and I've seen people throw out Penn State, which I just All right. I don't know if there's actual sources or if there's any legitimacy to that, but we'll see where he ends up. And I hope he does really well. And I hope that it boosts his draft stock and he gets, recruited more heavily at the next level than he would have if he stayed at Nebraska. Everybody thinks he's going to go to Texas Tech. That's the one silver lining of all of this, is that we no longer have to defend the guy who's cosplaying as Patrick Mahomes. I mean, I'm very excited to make fun of him along with everybody else. I really wanted to make fun of him, but he's your boy. When he's got the scarlet and cream, you got to root for him. You don't really have a choice. He's the one who's going to lead us to the promised land. So now that he's no longer in Nebraska, I'm still going to root for him, still want to, wish him well, but I cannot wait to make fun of him along with the rest of the country. And it's even funny that he injured his leg the same year Patrick Mahomes tore his ACL, which we'll get to here in a little bit too. So he might go to Texas Tech and complete this whole saga of him wanting to be Patrick Mahomes. We'll see. I'm excited to see what happens with him, and I don't have a clue what's gonna happen with us at the quarterback situation. I really don't have any idea. I've heard rumors and murmurs that even TJ Lateef could be entering the transfer portal. If I had to stand behind that offensive line, I get it. I understand why you'd want to get the hell out of Nebraska and find somewhere else where you've got some actual talent at offensive line. So I heard a good spin zone because, Nebraska has the second worst recruiting class in the Big Ten for next year. They were the worst recruiting class in the Big Ten before James Franklin was fired, and now Penn State, due to all the transfers and everything, now they technically have the worst recruiting class for 2026. So we just kind of got lucky, and we have the second worst recruiting class in the Big Ten. That should probably concern you. That concerns me. The spin zone that I've heard is that the reason why our recruiting class looks bad is because we have a lot of young talent on our team, and that's Matt Rule's system, is to recruit people and play them while they're young and develop them into, juniors and seniors with a lot of experience. I hope that that's accurate. I hope that's the reason why next year looks bad, is because we don't have roster spots. And if we do have roster spots, we'll just, get them from the transfer portal. And then, 2027, I want to say we've got like a top 5 recruiting class as of right now. So, we'll see what happens next year. I don't know. I can't remember the last time I was this down on Nebraska. Like, even throughout the Scott Frost years, every single year I was like, he's going to do it. He's going to take us to the next level. This is his year. I might be entering burnout stage. I don't know what that means. I'm still going to follow them, still going to pay attention to them, but maybe I just stay even keel and not get too excited like I have in the past. We'll see. Congratulations, Nebraska fans. Congratulations, everybody who's been a pessimist for Nebraska. You won. Shout out the haters. The haters were right. We suck. Anyway, but the state of college football is just weird in general. I mean, I don't know about you guys, man, and this is maybe going to make me sound like an old man, but like, this time of year used to really mean something in college football. It used to be really exciting this time of year. You had the Heisman. The Heisman Trophy used to be the biggest deal. My entire family would get around and gather around our tube TV and watch the Heisman ceremony. We'd eat dinner together, and like it was something that I did with my parents. It was something that really, really meant something. I mean, I can remember. I mean, I can't remember the first Heisman that I like when I first started actually understanding and paying attention to football. Might have been Reggie Bush, actually. I don't know, maybe even before that. But it used to be such a big deal. And Mendoza, I don't know, man. I just feel like he's just going to get forgotten about, and maybe he'll have a great career. But I wasn't excited for any of these Heisman candidates. I mean, it seems like the second and third place runner-ups in years past would have crushed it, in the Heisman voting this year. Like last year, Mendoza threw for 3,000 yards. Cam Ward last season with Miami threw for 4,300 yards, and he got second place for the Heisman. So just to put things into perspective, it feels like conference championships, the Heisman, bowl games, and recruiting classes. It feels like none of those matter. It feels like college football is just completely upside down. I just, I don't know. I don't get it. I used to think that college football meant something and this time of year meant something. It kind of doesn't feel that anyway. The rankings don't even matter. I mean, if you're going to just allow Tulane to occupy a playoff spot and nobody thinks that they have a shot at actually winning it all. I'm not saying that, Notre Dame or Vanderbilt or whoever should have automatically been in, but I'm like, really, you got 3-loss Alabama team in here. You've got Tulane is in here. It's clear that you don't want the 12 best teams in the country to be in the college football playoff. You want the teams that are playing by the NCAA's rules and the conference's rules to be in the playoffs. And you just follow the money and you see how this goes. It just feels like college football has been exposed as this big money making scheme, and it was even probably worse before they were like actually telling people that they were paying the players. Players have always been getting paid, whether you knew about it or not, or whether you want to admit it or not. And now that everything has kind of come to light and been exposed, it just shows that it all comes back to money. They don't care. It feels like the spirit of the game is gone. Or it's at least in a bad spot right now. So they got to figure some stuff out. NIL, transfer portal, all that is out of control. And just it feels completely meaningless. Why would you want to play in a conference championship if you have a shot at making the college football playoff? I think that's why they let Alabama in, was to send a message that, we're not going to penalize you for losing your conference championship. Conference champions still mean something. I don't know. It feels like some cupcake shit to me. I don't really like it. And then you have bowl games. What's the point of even having these bowl games? I mean, you've got, I don't know how many teams now, like close to a dozen teams have just surrendered their bowl games. They don't want to play in it. Play the transfer portal window, being open right now for the next 2 weeks is horrible for bowl games and horrible for the college football playoff. You've got star athletes who, why would you play in a bowl game when it's going to hurt your chances if you're transferring or you're going to the NFL draft, so why would you play in a bowl game? The system is set up to disappoint the fans. That's my point. I'm not bagging on the players or the teams or any of that or the coaching staffs. I'm saying the system, the NCAA has a huge problem, and they've just proven over and over and over again that they're completely worthless and completely incapable of fixing anything. I think you get rid of the conferences, get rid of the NCAA, have a new governing body in, and just copy and paste exactly like the NFL does it. You've got 2 conferences, divisions underneath, and the winner of those divisions make the playoffs, and you've got a couple wild card spots, and move on with your life. Just get it over with, bite the bullet. I don't know how that translates, with it being the academics in school. I still even think it's silly that we make these players go to college, and I know not all these players are going to go to the next level or whatever. Like a lot of these players, it's nice that they have an education to fall back on. It's just the cost of college and the value of a degree are, there's an inverse relationship where the cost goes up and the value goes down. A lot of these players don't give a shit about the degree that they're going to get. If you're in a top 10, top 25 program, you're starting on the team, your focus is on how much money can I make and what can I do to increase my probability to making it to the NFL? They don't care about psychology 201. They're all cheating anyway. We all know what they're doing. So I think, we're entering a really interesting phase of college football, and we'll see how much the NCAA is involved and how much they help us or make it worse. I will predict that they'll probably make it worse before it gets better. And then you have the Sharon Moore scandal, which is crazy. That's absolutely insane. I'm not going to comment on that too much just because I think this isn't a gossip show. This is for people who love ball. This is for people who love the game. Not, this isn't Secret Lives of Mormon Wives here. So if you want to watch that, you can go to Hulu and watch that. But I do think Sharon Moore, this whole scandal is wild. Like, what is going on at Michigan? Like, you've got Jim Harbaugh the last, few years, who's been the leader of this program. I mean, his main guy, Connor Stallions, gets exposed for this massive sign stealing scandal. We still really haven't gotten to the bottom of this. If anything, I hope so badly. I would love it if Sharon Moore blew the whistle on everything that's gone down at Michigan over the last couple of years. Cause how do you have Jim Harbaugh as like this Christian stand-up football guy who's maybe pretending to be this clean-cut, by the book type of guy? Yeah, his head honcho Connor Stallions has got basically the NCAA rules and knows every one of their opponents' signs, and then the guy who he hand selected to replace him is like kind of a total dirtbag. Like that's insanity. So we'll see what happens there. I don't think Michigan's going to bounce back, which good. I whatever. You had your stretch. You just won a national championship. Get ready for the rebuild, Michigan. It's going to be fun. Other things, Scott Frost. Yeah, the only meaning that I have found in any bowl games this year is I got such a deep satisfaction seeing that Scott Frost was not bowl eligible. And you're starting to see the UCF fans on Twitter starting to sound a lot like Husker fans a couple years ago. Keep an eye on that, guys. Keep an eye on Scott Frost, because now he's coming out and he's going to sue Nebraska over missed payments or some tax indemnity or I don't know what the hell. I read an article about it and it didn't make any sense. And it sounds like he was probably drunk when he decided to sue the university, and now he's in too deep. That's likely what's going to happen. But either way, not that the University of Nebraska is that much better than UCF by any means. It's great to see Scott Frost lose when he said basically we were the problem. It's like, no. If we're being honest, everybody kind of likes to see their ex have a shitty time, right? That's what's going on. We're seeing our ex have a pretty rough go at life right now, and that's kind of nice. It was a little heartwarming right around the holidays. I love to see it. So, my transition out of college football here is I was driving on the road the other day, and I made a list of bowl games that if they existed, I think that Nebraska would be eligible for. So let me say that one more time. I made a list of bowl games that if they existed, Nebraska would be eligible for. These are the bowl games. We're going to go with, we've got the Fruity Pebbles Milk Bowl, Melatonin Bowl, the Tampax Pad Bowl, Super 8 Motel Bowl, the Sylvan Learning Center Bowl, Sonic 4 the Movie Bowl, the Smart Car Bowl, the Cialis Unable to Finish Bowl, the Built on an Indian Burial Ground Bowl, the Wild Turkey and Pall Mall Cigarette Bowl. That would be great. Nebraska's hosting the Wild Turkey Whiskey and Pall Mall Cigarette Bowl. That sounds awesome. And then the last few are the Plastic Cover on the Couch Bowl, the Gas Station Bathroom Bowl, and then the Dog from I Am Legend Bowl. If you guys have seen that movie, you know how it ends. That's a little bit like watching Nebraska. So those are the bowls. Let me know what you guys think. Let me know if there's any that I missed. Throw out a comment of if there was a bowl that existed, what you think Nebraska would be eligible for. All right, transitioning out of college football, we're going to go to a little bit of combat sports here. The UFC, the UFC is, I think Petr Yan saved the UFC, because I have had a couple of takes recently where I've expressed my boredom with the UFC, that, it's wrestler dominated and you can't really make the matchups that you want to make. And they're doing the White House is kind of gimmicky and weird. And I don't know. The UFC is just, it's not like tugging at my heartstrings like it used to, like even like it did a couple of years ago. Watching Petr Yan beat up Merab, oh my goodness. I mean, I watched that entire fight. First of all, the fight before at Pantoja, getting injured right out of the gate and dislocating his elbow like that. That sucked, man. Because Pantoja, I want to see him fight again. So there was a lot of disappointment coming into this fight. And Petr Yan, oh my gosh. I don't know who can beat him in that division if he fights like that. And he's looked like that in the past. People have been saying that about Yan for a couple of years, and he's just gone through murderer's row with, Corey Sandhagen and Aljamain Sterling and Sean O'Malley, obviously. If he fought the way he fought against Merab, a couple weekends ago, he would beat anybody in that division. There's nobody who can beat Yan when he fights the way that he did. That cross or that jab that he was throwing and coming in with that body kick to follow. I mean, it kind of was like the blueprint on how you beat a really gifted wrestler. It's just attack their body, kill their gas tank, poke holes in their gas tank over and over and over and over again. And Jan, his striking is so good and his wrestling was so good too. He kind of out wrestled Merab because his striking was so good as well. So shout out Piotr Jan. I'm very excited to see what they make for him next. We've got some interesting fights coming up here soon. Nothing that I'm too crazy about, but UFC, it was just like, if the market's been up and down, the UFC is kind of on a slight uphill after this past card. I enjoyed it. And then we've got boxing. It's funny to boxing. The theme of what I feel about boxing right now is, and this comes up every once in a while, like boxing might be the most egregiously rigged and fake sport that we have at times. Okay. Because, and I don't mean that like the fights are fake. Maybe sometimes the fights are fake. Maybe, you do have fighters who take dives every once in a while, and you get more egregious decisions in boxing than you do in the UFC or any other, sport similar to that. So like, granted, I'm talking about that a little bit, but not really. What I mean by that is, how are you going to have Terrence Crawford do what he did against Canelo, and he's got to pay a couple $100,000 to maintain his belt? He says, "F you guys, I'm not paying it. You can strip me of my belt." And they strip him. Do they not see how that just kills the credibility of these different, these different belts? Nobody cares about what title Terrence Crawford has, under his name. Nobody cares at all about who has that belt if it's not the best fighter in the world. Terrence Crawford's the best fighter in the world, and he shouldn't have to pay a fine or pay a fee or whatever it is to maintain that. He should have to go in there and win fights. I mean, that's like extortion. If you're like, oh yeah, you win this fight, and I know like the fee that he was supposed to pay was significantly less than it normally is, but who cares? You're not gonna harass me or bully me into paying you $300,000 to maintain a belt that I won fair and square. That's ridiculous. So that's some shady stuff. And then you've got Anthony Joshua and Jake Paul coming up on Friday. It's free. It's on Netflix. So, of course, I'll watch the main event. And I think you've also got Anderson Silva and Tyron Woodley are fighting on that card too, which I believe, actually, now that I think about it, those are two former Jake Paul opponents. Jake Paul beat both of those guys. Knocked Tyron Woodley clean out and then beat Anderson Silva in a decision. And he knocked Anderson Silva down, legitimately beat him. I don't care what anybody says. Jake Paul, he's not a world-class boxer, but he's a better boxer than a 50-year-old retired UFC fighter, and just purely in the sport of boxing. Anthony Joshua, on the other hand, I think this is a huge mistake for Jake Paul. I think it's a massive, massive, massive mistake that he's going to expose himself as not a very legitimate boxer. Like, he's looked decent in some of his fights, like even going back to the beginning when he like knocking out Nate Robinson, knocking out Tyron Woodley, knocking out Ben Askren. Like that establishes a little bit of credibility, and that makes you believe the story or the hype a little bit. It's his bubble is going to be so burst. This could be the end of his boxing career. And two things. One, expect Anthony Joshua to go in there and knock out Jake Paul, and he's going to do it quickly. The dude knocked out, like, and I'm talking flatlined, Francis Ngannou. If you guys don't remember that, it's on YouTube. Go back and watch it. Like, he made Francis Ngannou look like he didn't know what the hell he was doing in there. I would take Francis Ngannou over Jake Paul all day long. So if you realize there's levels to this game, I think that Anthony Joshua is, again, one of two things. He's either going to go in there and just beat the absolute piss out of Jake Paul and get it done really quickly, or if it's close in any regard, say goodbye to the Jake Paul hype. Say goodbye to it completely. Because if Anthony Joshua struggles to do anything against Jake Paul, it's not real. Then we're watching the WWE, and I actually have thought about that with how much Logan Paul is having success as a fake wrestler. I'm sure that they are rehearsing some stuff or working on this together. They help each other in business. Why wouldn't Logan Paul get involved and teach his brother Jake how to make a fake fight look real? If that happens, you're going to have people completely lose interest. I think it's bad either way. I think either way he loses his credibility. There's no way in hell that Jake Paul can stand a chance against Anthony Joshua. And I really hope that Anthony Joshua just, makes them bite the canvas early. So we'll see. Last piece, and then on my favorite sport, the NFL. So we've got a bunch of things to go over yet. First of all, sucks to see that we've got a lot of injuries in the NFL. Micah Parsons and Patrick Mahomes. Now, granted, the Packers and the Chiefs are probably, maybe not probably, definitely my two least favorite teams in the entire NFL. Not a fan of either of those teams at all. But you want to see the best players in the NFL stay healthy. You know, you don't want to see a Packers team now that's got a hobbled defense limping into the playoffs. You want to see them at full strength because the satisfaction comes from beating somebody at full strength. The reason why the legend of Eli Manning exists is because he was able to beat Tom Brady and the Patriots undefeated at full strength. That makes it that much more special. You don't want to see these teams not at full strength advancing. And the Chiefs, yeah, they missed their window. They're out of the playoffs, which is crazy. I did not think it would happen this quickly. They have been on an insane run, and I'm very excited to watch an NFL playoffs without the Chiefs. But I wouldn't wish an ACL tear on any of the superstars in the league, no matter how much I hate their teams. But that being said, I feel like my childhood is making a comeback. You know, you've got the Broncos are good again. You've got Phillip Rivers for the Colts. Oh my gosh, I was rooting for Phillip Rivers so aggressively. It was so awesome, and he looked terrible. He looked out of shape. He looked overweight. His pads looked like they barely fit him. His helmet looked like it was too small. He did not look very good. And I don't think he threw a tight spiral one time. I think he threw a duck every single pass. It was like he's throwing as hard as he can, and it's just this wobbly little duck going to his wide receivers. He had a shifty little, touchdown pass, which was nice. I loved seeing the fire. I loved seeing the trash talk from Phillip Rivers, but 44 years old. And that also kind of goes back to college football. What's wrong with the game? What's wrong with college football where we are not developing young quarterbacks? You got to get a 44-year-old Phillip Rivers in here to fill up. You don't have any young talent across the league. That's crazy. But yeah, my childhood's coming back. If you look at the standings, the Patriots and the Broncos are hot in the AFC, and then the NFC, I feel like it's just up for grabs. Let's pull up the NFC standings because this is crazy, man. I mean, the fact that you've got Detroit, who's 8-6, and they're in trouble to miss the playoffs right now is kind of wild. So, all right. So in order, you've got the Rams who clinched 11-3. Then you go Bears, Eagles, Bucks are 7-7 in fourth place. That's just because the NFC South is the worst division in football. Seahawks, 49ers, Green Bay, Detroit. That's 8 right there. Yeah, this is absolute insanity. And I saw a scenario where you've got San Francisco is 10-4 right now. They went out, they could be the number 1 seed. Nobody's really talking about San Francisco. But the NFL right now just feels like it feels like the good old days. The NFL, whereas college, their stock is kind of going down. I feel like the NFL stock is right back up. This is the most clueless or the most unknown I've ever seen the end of the year. I don't have any idea. I don't have any predictions as to who may or may not win the NFL. It looks like the Rams are probably the best team in football. But, dude, watching that Packers-Broncos game, Broncos fans, if you're listening to this, you might want to turn the volume off or skip this part. I think the Broncos might be the best team in football. And what I mean by that is if the Broncos play the way they played in the second half against the Packers, I don't think there's a team that can beat them. I think Sean Payton should probably win Coach of the Year this year. I'd love to see Sean Payton or Ben Johnson win Coach of the Year this year. I don't know what their odds are to win Coach of the Year are, but I feel like Sean Payton and that Denver defense is just beautiful watch. PS2, Patrick Surtain, seeing him pick off Christian Watson. I know Christian Watson got a stinger, got injured on that play, whatever. But that just beautiful, dominant coverage. That fourth down that Bo Nix had, that he dropped it right off to Sutton on the sideline. Oh my gosh. Like, I was in my apartment by myself. Sid was running some errands. I was in my apartment by myself, jumping up and down, hollering, watching the Denver Broncos. They could be the best team in the NFL. If they play the way they played in the second half against Green Bay, I don't think there's a team in the NFL that can beat them. All right, Broncos fans, you can tune back in and listen to this. Whereas on the other side, I thought the best team in the NFL before that, but outside of the Broncos and the Rams, I thought might have been the Philadelphia Eagles. This is the biggest story in football right now is the Philadelphia Eagles. They had a positivity rabbit installed in the locker room. Did you guys see this? It's not even a rabbit. A positivity Easter bunny, like one of those big inflatable Easter bunnies that you put in front of your house outside. And it's massive. I mean, it's like a 6-7 foot Easter bunny. All right. First of all, pause, right? That's what they say in Philly. When something's a little suspicious, they say pause. Pause on the freaking Easter bunny in the locker room. Whose idea was that? Can you imagine just think of your place of work. If somebody was like, man, the vibes are all thrown off here. I'm putting a big ass inflatable rabbit right in front of your desk. That thing is getting a pair of scissors thrown at it within 5 minutes of being up. Whose idea was this? We need to make football tough again. We need a positivity rabbit? Dude, that's some candy ass shit if I've ever heard it. That's some crazy stuff. And it only lasted one day. The Eagles, let me see the timeline of this. The Eagles, looking at their recent schedule, because they did have a good win last week, or this past weekend against the Raiders. Yeah, they lost to the Bears on the 28th, and then they go to the Chargers in SoFi. The positivity rabbit was installed after the Bears game. They go to SoFi and play the Chargers. They lose in overtime, pop the positivity bunny, and then they go and they beat the Raiders 31-0. Positivity Easter bunny, bro? Not my NFL. Not my NFL. That's some crazy shit. That might be something we might need to do another deep dive. I've never heard anything like this before in the NFL. And I don't know whose idea it was. I don't know who sanctioned it. Someone's got to step up and be like, hey, look, bro, you're not putting a positivity rabbit in my locker room. I'm not allowing this. What's Nick Sirianni doing? Can you imagine John Madden saying, yeah, for sure, go ahead? Can you imagine Bill Belichick saying, yeah, no problem, put a positivity Easter bunny in November in my locker room? What? You imagine John Harbaugh, Mike Tomlin, some of the greats in this sport. I mean, they would probably trade a player just for even bringing that shit up. What are we doing? Positivity Easter bunny in the locker room, guys? Oh my goodness. That's some crazy stuff. That's the biggest story. I'm going to keep an eye on that. If we've got more that happens, more crazy stuff like that around the Eagles culture, because the Eagles have been a bad vibes team all year, and they're just a kind of a shitty team to watch play football. They have like the most talented roster in the NFL, and they can't get anything done. So the fact that you got a positivity rabbit in the locker room, come on, give me a break. Pop that. I'm done with that. AJ Brown, AJ Brown? You're going to allow someone's going to put a positivity rabbit up in your locker room? What are we doing? So anyway, that's all I got. That's my time. I love you guys. It's good to be back. I'll be keeping up with the college football playoff and the rest of the NFL season. I'll probably do one, maybe two more episodes before the end of the year. And then, definitely get a new episode going to kick off the year 2026. So thank you guys again for sharing the show. I love you all. Until next time, have a great day.